History remembers kings and empires, but in the shadows, mercenaries, soldiers for hire, have shaped the fate of nations. They fight for coins, not for flags. Yet time and again, these hired guns have toppled rulers and humbled empires that believed themselves invincible. Mercenaries do not swear lifelong loyalty. Their bond is to survival and to their paymaster's gold. But this very lack of attachment makes them both fearsome and unpredictable. Empires, slow and proud, often find themselves outmaneuvered by bands of professional fighters who care only for victory and payment. Across centuries, this pattern repeats. From the ancient Greeks lost deep in Persia, to the wild Catalan company in Byzantium, and the German and Gothic warriors who broke Rome's gates, mercenaries have been both saviors and destroyers. Their discipline and skill often outweigh the sheer numbers or traditions of their opponents. This story is not just about ancient wars. Even today, mercenaries, now called private military companies, fight in modern conflicts, raising the same troubling questions. Can power be hired safely? Or do those who pay for warriors risk building the very force that may one day destroy them? Imagine thousands of Greek soldiers stranded deep in enemy land, hired to fight in a Persian civil war. The 10,000 found themselves leaderless when their employer was killed. Trapped, surrounded by the vast armies of the Persian Empire, their situation looked hopeless. The Persians expected the Greeks to surrender or die, but the mercenaries did neither. Led by Xenophon, an officer and historian, they banded together. They trusted no one except each other. Their only hope was to march home, through hundreds of miles of hostile territory, over mountains and deserts, pursued at every step. Their journey, told in Xenophon's Anabasis, became a legend. The Greeks faced ambushes and starvation. They fought their way through tribes and imperial forces far larger than themselves. They crossed rivers under showers of arrows and climbed freezing passes with nothing but discipline and courage to guide them. Against impossible odds, the 10,000 survived. Their escape was not just a tale of endurance, it was a lesson in what professional paid soldiers could achieve. Their unity, toughness, and skill made them more than a match for the Persian armies, whose size was wasted by poor leadership and lack of discipline. The Greeks' victory was not about numbers. The Persian Empire could field vast armies. Yet these massed forces broke against the iron discipline of the mercenaries. The 10,000 knew how to march, how to fight, and, most importantly, how to trust their drills above all else. Discipline was the mercenaries' true weapon. While Persian armies relied on impressing peasants and counting on noble loyalty, the mercenaries trained relentlessly. They moved as one unit, responded to signals, and held their lines even when surrounded. This unity turned them into a moving fortress, deadly at both defense and attack. The Greeks also adapted quickly. When met by new threats, mounted archers, ambushes, or sudden betrayals, they invented tactics on the spot. Their goal was not honor or land, but survival and pay. This clarity of purpose let them shed the old rules and focus on what actually worked in battle. The Persian commanders never understood this. They believed that loyalty, not skill, would win the day. The defeat at the hands of the 10,000 echoed through history. It showed that hired soldiers could outfight and outlast even the mightiest empires, if they kept their discipline and their focus. Centuries after Xenophon, another empire faced disaster and called for mercenary help. The Byzantine Empire, weakened by enemies on all sides, hired the Catalan Company, a fierce band of Spanish and Italian warriors. Promised gold and glory, they came to fight the Turks, threatening Byzantine lands. At first, the Catalans were heroes. They smashed their enemies, using ruthless tactics and unbreakable discipline. Their numbers were small, but their skill unmatched. The Byzantines, with their traditional armies growing soft and unreliable, saw the Catalans as saviors, at least for a time, but trust soon broke down. The Byzantines grew wary of their new protectors, who demanded ever more pay and began to behave like conquerors, rather than allies. Betrayed and insulted by their employer, the Catalan Company turned on Byzantium. They carved their own path of destruction, plundering towns and even seizing Greek lands for themselves. What began as a desperate alliance ended in disaster. The mercenaries became the empire's worst enemy. The lesson was bitter hire warriors for their skill, but risk losing control if their loyalty is only to gold. The Roman Empire, too, trusted in hired swords. As Rome grew old and stretched its borders, its own citizens lost the will to fight. To fill the ranks, emperors turned to mercenaries, barbarians from beyond the frontier. These warriors, from Goths to Vandals, were given land, gold, and even high command. At first, the system worked. Mercenary leaders like Alaric fought Rome's wars. But, cracks soon appeared. The hired men had no love for Rome's laws or traditions. Their loyalty lasted only as long as the pay and respect did. When Rome faltered, when payments failed, or insults were given, the mercenaries remembered their own people, not the empire they served. This distrust reached its peak when Alaric, denied his due by a proud and slow Roman government, marched his army to the gates of Rome itself. In 410 AD, the unthinkable happened. The mercenaries sacked the Eternal City. Rome, once invincible, fell to the very men it had hired for protection. The pattern was clear. Mercenaries could win battles, but they could just as easily bring an empire to its knees if trust or payment ran out. Across history, the same story unfolds. Empires rise on the strength of citizen armies. Over time, as wealth and pride grow, those same empires become slow and complacent. The ruling class forgets the hard lessons of war. Soldiers become parade troops, more skilled in ceremony than in real fighting. Into this weakness step the mercenaries. Their hunger keeps them sharp. They do not care about traditions or honor, only about winning and surviving. Mercenaries drill harder and fight better because their lives depend on it. Empires used to easy victories underestimate these professionals until it is too late. But the mercenaries' strength is also their danger. Their lack of roots makes them unpredictable. If the gold runs out, or if a better offer comes, they may turn against their employer. Time after time, rulers gamble everything on the loyalty of men who have none but to themselves. The result is often disaster. Empires that once seemed eternal fall not to outside invasion, but to the very soldiers they trusted most. The lessons of the 10,000, the Catalans, and Rome repeat wherever power is bought rather than earned. Today the world is different, but the story continues. Now mercenaries call themselves private military contractors. Names like Wagner, Executive Outcomes, and Blackwater echo in the news, fighting wars for governments, corporations, or anyone who can pay. Modern mercenaries operate in the shadows. They fight in Africa, the Middle East, and beyond. Their skills are unmatched, their discipline as strong as the ancient Greeks, but their loyalty remains for sale. When countries or companies hire these fighters, they get results, but at a risk. Just as in the past, trust is fragile. If payment fails, or if politics change, mercenaries can become a headache or even a threat. They know secrets, hold key positions, and sometimes control weapons or vital resources. The line between helper and enemy can blur in an instant. The dangers are real. In recent years, private armies have toppled governments, guarded oil fields, and even tried to shape entire wars. The lesson is clear. Technology and tactics may change, but the risks of hiring outside power remain as high as ever. The story of mercenaries is a warning written across centuries. From ancient Persia to modern war zones, empires have learned, sometimes the hard way, that hired power comes with a price. Mercenaries win battles that regular troops cannot. But when trust or gold runs out, those same fighters may become the greatest threat. Loyalty cannot be bought. Mercenaries serve only as long as it suits them. Their discipline and skill are valuable, but dangerous when turned against their employer. Empires that grow soft and rely on hired swords risk losing everything the moment they lose control. This lesson matters today more than ever. As governments and companies turn to private armies, the old dangers return. The history of the 10,000, the Catalan Company, and Rome shows what happens when money replaces real loyalty. The final truth is simple. You can hire power, but true safety and the future of any nation depend on loyalty. Something no amount of gold can ever buy.